All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate you being here. I will try and stay relatively on topic. I have a tendency to, oh, look, another shiny thing over there. Oh, look at that, right? I do have a tendency to wander off topic. Thank you. Now, it's interesting, here we are at a muster, 8:32. For the truth will set you free, right? The truth will set you free. But we have to first identify what is the truth. There lies the issue today when AI has so much. You look at somebody speaking and for a minute you think it's actually them and it's not, and you know, all this stuff. So we have to be very, very, very vigilant, I think, on what we determine to be the truth. And so I will try and stick to the truth as I know it, as best I can. And some of what I'll say, I may get dates wrong or numbers wrong, but it's not through intent to deceive you. It's just because there's a few holes. Well, there's a lot of space between the 4 active brain cells I've got, and sometimes they just don't connect properly, all right? All right, so my Rumble channel is Tim's Truth, all one word, both capital T's, for those of you who don't know it. I did have a YouTube channel that had a lot more people on it, but YouTube didn't like my content and took that off. My whole thing is the Constitution. I've been studying the Constitution for over 30 years. I've been arguing with people about the Constitution for over 30 years. And most people, when you talk about the Constitution, look at you like a tree full of owls, you know, like, who? What? You know, it's just, you're kidding. And you start talking, and I'm all enthused about it, and it's like, and they glaze over, and I think, I better start talking about the footy, I think, right? Because they just don't get it. And think about this, as young people, when we would go out, start going out on a Friday, Saturday night, we were told 2 things you never talk about, young fella: politics and religion. You'll get into trouble. Well, how haven't we got into trouble for not speaking about politics and religion? Because they're the 2 things that determine our entire life. Now, Corinne and I came down to the Mount here a few times a while back, did a few sessions at the RSL, and it was well received, and we were very, very thankful for the support we got. It was wonderful, and it really is a good spot, and there's good people down here. Let me just get this. We bought a few copies of this. This is the actual Constitution. Now, that big red book over there, and this one down here, that is also the Constitution. And you go, well, hang on, if this is the Constitution, how can that be the Constitution? Well, our Constitution is all here. It's all there, in that. What the big red book does is it explains in the first part why and how they came about the Constitution. What other constitutions did they take pieces out of? What other court cases did they use? What did they take? What did they leave behind? Why did they take it? Why did they leave it behind? Why did they put it into this document? And then, after the end of this document, is the annotation of every word that's in here. You see, our Constitution starts off with, whereas the people of New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Queensland and Tasmania, humbly relying on the blessings of Almighty God, have agreed to unite in one indissoluble federal commonwealth under the crown of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Ireland, and under the Constitution hereby established. And so in our Constitution, My constitution gets a little bit of work. It's a work document. This is the second one. The other one fell apart. But anyway, just so as you know, I'm not mixing up the truth with lies. In our constitution it says, whereas the people. Well, here is the definition of the word whereas and why they used it. And then here's the definition of the people of the Constitution. And what does that mean? What does the words the people mean? Well, part of it is they're talking about where does the great authority lie? Where does the authority lie? Now, Quick and Garron, the people who wrote this, they were also part of the legal framework of writing this document. So they were involved in writing the document, in writing the Constitution. All right? Now, he's talking about here, Quick is talking about, I state further that if the question was asked of some politician who had not considered the subject with sufficient accuracy where the supreme power resided in our government, he would answer that it was vested in the state constitutions, because each state has their own constitution. This opinion approaches near the truth, but does not reach it. For the truth is, now I want you to pay particular attention to the words. Words mean stuff. Says he who got chucked out of school at 14. Words, okay. The truth is, the supreme, absolute, and uncontrollable authority remains with the people. Not the states, not the state constitutions, and not even this constitution. It remains with you. Therefore, what that means is you, us, we the people, have the absolute, total and uncontrollable authority within the landmass known as Australia. But if you have the authority and you don't use it, you don't have it. If you have, pardon me, if you have rights and choose not to use them, then you don't have any. Now, I know some of you have been to court and Mr. Ploticus has taken you along there and given you a piece of paper and says you've got to front up because you've been a bad, naughty boy or girl. And then the magistrate, he or she sits on a bench up here, you're down there. The whole place is a satanic star chamber. It's not a court. It's a bank, right? Well, I proved that, here I go off track, right? I got done for going through a speed camera too quick. And anyway, I thought, I haven't been to court for so long. Not that I miss it, right? But I thought, and people are ringing me up saying, Tim, what about this? What about that? Can I do that? And I thought, well, I don't know. I haven't been there for years. So I thought I'd better go. So I didn't pay. I elected to go. But what I did was I sent the head of the business unit of Fines SA or whoever they are, an affidavit. And I waited a few days. And then I rang up and I got some, and I'm assuming a pimply-faced little whatever on the other end of the phone. And I said who I was and that I had sent an affidavit to the head of the business department, right? And he goes, oh, he'll never get it. I said, what do you mean he'll never get the affidavit? It was addressed to him, sitting on my desk. I said, excuse me? Oh yes, that'll never go to Johinky, or whatever his name is, Jonky, right? It's on my desk. I said, isn't that fabulous? I said, now, in your department, we now have mail tampering and mail fraud. I said, thanks very much. got his name, the date of the call, organised to go to court. Get to court, and this big pommy bloke comes out. He's a prosecutor.
He was Scottish.
Scottish. I couldn't understand him. He had an accent so thick, fair dinkum, it was just horrid. And he's gibbering away, and I go, mate, stop. I can't understand a word you're saying.
Need a translator.
Yeah, right? Anyway, long story short, he says, well, you know, the magistrate's never going to see that rubbish affidavit anyway. I said, oh, a lawfully sworn and signed affidavit is rubbish in your view. Is that correct? Oh, no, but it's not lawfully written. I said, yes, it is. Oh, well, we do it differently. Okay, fine. We get into court, and the Magi's sitting up there, and he goes, well, you know, they read out the charge, and he goes, Mr. Dwyer, what do you have to say? I said, well, look, I really don't have much to say. I said, this snoozer over here, right? I said, he came out and tried to get me to make a deal outside the court. I said, and when I said I thought that's what we were here to do, in the court, I said, and I told him about a unrebutted affidavit that had been sent to Jonky, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but anyway, and that some pimple face on the other end of the phone said that they had it on their desk and he would never receive it. So now we have mail fraud and mail tampering. And he said, you'd never bother to read it. And he looked at this prosecutor and he said, is that right, Mr. Prosecutor? Well, this poor Scottish fellow, I tell you what, he was shuffling paper everywhere. Do you have it? Oh, well, it's here somewhere. I said, I've got a copy for you, sir. I didn't call him Your Honour, sir. Gave it to the messenger person. They came, picked it up, handed it up to him. And he said, this has not been rebutted. I said, nope. I said, has not. And I looked at the prosecutor, no. He said, well, I think we can let go of the speeding aspect of this. Yeah. Are you happy with that, Mr. Prosecutor? Oh, yes. Oh, he said, well, I think we could let go of the points, the 3 points. Are you happy with that, Mr. Prosecutor? Oh, yes. And he looked at me then and he said, Mr. Dwyer, there's still the aspect of victims of crime levy. And I go, well, that's a problem. And he said, I beg your pardon? I said, well, there's no speeding fine here. There's no points to be lost. There can be no victims of crime levy. And here's what I went to court for, and here's the education you get today. He said, Mr. Dwyer, somebody has to pay for the court's time. Right? Somebody has to pay for the court's time. And I smiled at him and I said, well, thank you, sir. I'm happy to pay for my education today to realise that this is just a money machine. Yeah. And that was the end of that. So the courts are only there for your money, all right? Anyway, moving back to the book, right? This book was written under the blessings of Almighty God. And it explains how that was put in there, and it was introduced at the Adelaide sessions here in South Australia. And the reason why I believe is that South Australia was never a colony. South Australia was never ever a colony. South Australia was the province of the king, of the Protestant king. Okay? And a province is not a colony. And the colony is lower than a province. And the province apparently wrote itself down later on to become a colony so it could fit within the Commonwealth. Okay, that's just another story we can work on later. The plot does thicken, right? Now, so what happens here is we can go through this book, as I have many times. There are those who will argue that this book was not duly written and handed down to the people because Queen Victoria made some alterations after we'd agreed to it. And that is true, she did. But those alterations were for our benefit, not the Crown's benefit. Right? One of those situations was that the people in here had to swear an oath. Right? And the oath to hold any office, state or federal, in this country says, I, Bill Smith or Tim Dwyer, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria. Now the name of the monarch can be changed. To her heirs and successors according to law, so help me God. That is the oath. There is an affirmation. Now keep in mind, Anthony Albanese ran around at the last election, before the last election, and got the Catholic vote up real strong because he was a good Catholic boy. He went to Catholic school. He did this. He was a good Catholic, and yet he would not take an oath. He took an affirmation. He would not put his hand on the Bible. I think he's... Anyway, I don't... And the affirmation says, I, Tim Dwyer, do solemnly, sincerely affirm and declare that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, or in this case it would have been Queen Elizabeth, her heirs and successors according to law. I have the documents and the videos at home to prove that Bob Hawke was the last Prime Minister to swear that oath. Not one of them since have sworn that oath or affirmation. And we've got every video of every one of them doing it. So the little stickers that we've got that says no lawful oath, no lawful authority, in section 42 of the Constitution, it's really simple. 42 says, every senator and every member of the House of Representatives shall, before taking his seat, make and subscribe before the Governor-General or some person authorised by him an oath or affirmation of allegiance in the form set forth in the schedule of this Constitution. They haven't done it. So, what we've done is... Has anybody heard of a guy called Augusto Zimmerman? Yes. Some have, some haven't. Yep. Okay, Augusto Zimmerman. He's a South American. He's an Australian. And he is the leading authority on constitutional law in Australia. He is the smartest man that you would ever come across. And I have spent a little bit of time with Augusto running some concepts past him. And Augusto told me that there is no way you can get judicial remedy for the situation of the Australian Parliament today. The courts will not, cannot go against the government. Even section 42, even section 44, right? 44 is pretty interesting, right? Let me get up here to 44 again. Come on. 44. Now think of this. Albanese went and signed a document in the UN. Do you remember that? No. Right? No. Anybody heard of the WHO, the World Homicide Organization, right? Any person who is under the acknowledgement or allegiance or obedience or adherence to a foreign power or is subject or a citizen or entitled to the rights or privileges of a subject or a citizen of a power, of a foreign power, has no capacity to sit in Parliament. But you can't get them out. You can't get them out. The courts won't kick them out. We have people lodge in the courts with all the evidence that we've got on section 42 to have the entire Parliament thrown on its arse. Yeah. And the High Court refused to hear it because it would be too disruptive.
Oh, is that like the 28?
Same deal, right? So, let me move forward here a little bit.
That's an easy way out, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Now, you've got to understand we also have a And this is why I try and say that I will stick to the truth as best I possibly can, because on my channel it gets a bit repetitive because I stay within the documents that I have evidence of. I have my own opinions and I let them be known, but they're backed up by the documents, right? Now, that is the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia, of the people of all the states. Now, it's under the lion and the unicorn, and it is non-copyrighted. The Constitution that you will be given by your local member, it is under the chook and the rat, right, the kangaroo and the emu, and it is copyrighted. It's not your Constitution, okay? And let me explain why. There are two commonwealths, a corporate commonwealth and an original non-corporate commonwealth. This is clearly defined in the Public Governance Performance Accountability Act of 2013. They state in the small print that the corporate commonwealth entities are legally separate from the Commonwealth, which is the non-corporate commonwealth. So, you have our Commonwealth under that book, and we have their Commonwealth, the corporate, anything that's got an ABN on it, corporate Commonwealth. They need a contract. But the court, you try and take them to court, and the court kicks you in the butt. So we're stuck. We know they're wrong. We know they've killed millions of us. We know they're stealing everything out from under us. And yet we have no lawful judicial remedy. Then what do? We stand and complain, we bitch, we whinge, we meet in the park, we talk amongst ourselves. And what happens is they then keep passing these bills which are not locked into this, but they're locked in with the blokes with the things on their hips and their taser guns and everything else. So, small challenge, right? Small challenge, right? And so here it is here, the corporate commonwealth. There are two types of commonwealth entities, a corporate commonwealth, which is commonwealth entity that is a body corporate. And it states it here that it's all in their act. It's not me making it up. I copy and paste that off their act. Right? That's their paperwork. Then we've got this other crap going down. All this green stuff. Oh, green. And teals, right? Right? Unbelievable, right? That's right. I was at a conference, Corinne and I were at a conference back early this year in Albury. And Malcolm Roberts said something intelligent. He said, Liberal and Labor, he said, they are not different wings of the same bird. He said, they're the left and right cheek of the same arsehole. Right? And I thought, the truth out of a politician's mouth, right? Anyhow, a rare beast. But we're being told all this green stuff, particularly by your councils, and the councils is where it's being driven from, and that's being driven by the World Council of Mayors. Look it up. There is a World Council of Mayors which comes under the WEF, all right? Now, and just nasty people, all right? But here is a list of 40 of the previous diabolical environmental disasters we were going to face. In 1967, there'd be a dire famine. In 1975, they said. In 1970, they said there'd be an ice age by 2000. In 1970, America would be subject to water rationings by 74 and food rationings by 1980. In 1971, there's a new ice age coming in 2020 or 2030. Space satellites now show ice age coming fast. That was in 74. Scientific consensus is planet is cooling and famine is imminent. That was in 1976. it just goes on. Rising sea levels will obliterate nations if nothing is done by 2000, and that was said in 1989. New York City's West Side Highway will be underwater by 2019. They said that in 1989. It's not. Children won't know what snow is. Well, I think they got a bit of snow in Canada just recently. I'm not sure. And it just goes on and on and on. Here's a good one. Peak oil will be in 2000. They said that in 1980. In 1996, they said peak oil in 2020. And in 2000, they said peak oil in 2010. We haven't run out of oil, and we'll never run out of oil. Oil is a replenishable product. It's not from dinosaurs and rotten wood. Right? It's just not. And here's a graph. And if you go on to Tim's Truth, go back 3 pages, go all the way down, click next page, right? Go back 3 lots. And scroll down, and you'll see a video there with a little dog on the front of it. You want to watch that video, and then you want to send that link to your counsellors. And it explains how they cherry-pick the data of heat, rain, the whole lot. But here's an interesting thing. Back here, this is all done out of the ice cores apparently. CO2 was up high. We go through the Jurassic Age where the plants, the forestation everything was just massive, but CO2 was high. Here we are down here with CO2 down near a disastrous level. And if they keep reducing CO2 in the atmosphere, we will not have crops. It's called starvation. And they'll blame it on a thing called climate change. Or cow farts. I love what Topher Field said. Full fart milk. Right? I want to drink full fart milk, right? I want to eat full fart meat, right? So we've got that. So what do we do? What do we do with all our situations? Well, somewhere in here I think I may have left that bit on the table. I'm not sure. Yeah, hang on. My helper might have... Helper. That's all right. I need helper. Yeah, no. Oh, no, hang on. Here it is. I got it. I know. Sorry, you're sacked. No. Don't fire her. Hell no. I got to tell you, right, you got to understand something. I'm the bloke standing up here, and I'm the one on the screen with Tim's Truth. But if there was not a Corinne, none of this would happen. I tell you that there is, Corinne deserves, right? And, you know, people say to me, oh, thanks, Tim. And I sit there and I try and explain, but it just sometimes doesn't come out right. But I'd be lost. I literally would be lost, right?
Corinne, you're not hearing all this good stuff.
Anyway, so here we have a situation where you got this bloke standing in front of you. I got chucked out of school when I was 14 because I couldn't read and write. I was illiterate. Right? All I could do was fight and run, and I won most of my fights by about 20 yards. Right? But at the end of the day, it got to a point where I did learn to read. My writing's still not flash, and for God's sake, check my spelling, right? But one of the things all my life is I could not stand injustice, no matter who it was toward. And as I started to understand the world, all I saw was injustice. So what do we do with a government that we can't vote out? You can't vote them out. You can start up another party, you can't vote them out. It doesn't work, right? It literally doesn't work. The parliamentary process in this country is so broken. The only thing that can be done with it now is throw it on a bonfire and burn the remnants of it and start fresh again. Sack the lot, right? We have a document here that needs no introduction, but it does need a little trimming and needs a little alteration. But it's not for me to alter it or any other singular person out there who think they might want to write a new constitution. It's for the people of this country to say how they want their country to look. But you must be given an opportunity to do that. And so it is with a lot of gnashing of my teeth and worry and contemplation and an enormous amount of prayer. Because to do what I'm proposing, the first thing we must do is send the Spirit before the battle. If God does not go before us, we cannot advance 1 inch. It's that simple. And for a lot of us, it might have been years since we've been inside a church or even bothered to kneel beside our bed. But that day is coming, I can tell you. And here's where we are. My concept is the reformation of the Australian Constitution and bring back a lawful, legitimate parliament. Not a corporate parliament. The corporation must go, and every aspect of it has to be dismantled. Now, I'm not talking about a revolution, I'm talking about a reformation. It may look like a revolution, but it won't be one with sticks and guns and bombs and stuff. It'll be one with hearts and minds. The current government structure and its issues. We have corporate control. It's called fascism. There is no other name for it. The Commonwealth government described in the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act is operating outside the original Constitution, as I've just explained to you there. We have a fraudulent government. Not one member, state or federal, has sworn a lawful oath of allegiance to our Constitution. They have not. And they haven't done it for nearly 50 years. We have a Freedom of Information document looking for the oaths of all these people, and we asked for the oaths of the High Court justices in the Federal Court and the Federal Family Court. None could be found. So we have nobody in the judicial system has sworn a lawful oath to protect you, to protect your family. They're there to protect the corporation, and the corporation is bleeding us to death. Under Section 42 of the Constitution, as I said, they haven't sworn their oath. The Australian Electoral Commission, you go and vote. In 1973, Gough Whitlam pulled the Commonwealth, the word Commonwealth, out of every act of Parliament and left Australia in, or replaced it with the territory. So, we had, think about this just from a voting perspective, we had the Commonwealth Electoral Officer, or the Commonwealth of Australia Electoral Officer, right? They got rid of the word Commonwealth, now we have the Australian Electoral Officer. Australia is not the Commonwealth, it's a corporation. They took out the Commonwealth of Australia Electoral Commission. They took Commonwealth out, left Australia in. They took the Commonwealth Police out and called it Federal Police. So there's no Commonwealth Police. Every act that had the Commonwealth in it no longer holds the word Commonwealth in the act. They didn't ask us for it. They didn't ask our parents to vote on this. They just did it. 115 pages of amendments. And they wiped the Commonwealth out. But they still use the word around the back way, or they use it in all capital letters. The Australian Commonwealth, all capital letters. That's not us. They're tricky little suckers. They're slimy. They move things around. Look about the same, but it's different. So we don't have an electoral commission where you can actually go and vote. Section 30, I could read it to you, I won't. Section 30 says that to vote you must be a man or a woman. Well, actually here in South Australia, you must be a man or a woman. It's the only state that actually had the vote back then for the ladies, right? You must be 21 years of age, and you must be a British subject, and you must be naturally born. You must be naturally born. Now, how many of you know about the straw man? You all know about the straw man? Yep. Those of you who don't know about the straw man, a quick thing. On your licence or anything you get from the government, your name's in all capital letters. That is a legal fiction. It's like a corporation. Your name with your first letter in capitals and the rest lowercase, last name capital, lowercase. That means you're naturally born. You go and type your name into the electoral office to see if you're on the roll. And you write your name correctly. You type it in capital T, Timothy, capital J, Joseph, capital D, Dwyer, right? And it comes back all capital letters. Only the legal fiction is registered. And I can tell you this, a legal fictitious entity does not have a heart, a mind or a soul, has no capacity of thought, nor can make a decision. And therefore you aren't voting. You aren't voting. You're being scammed to agree to the terms and conditions for the next 4 years. Corporation. Okay. State and federal, they're all the same. Makes no difference. The surveillance, we're under surveillance everywhere we go. I could go on and about all this. You know all the crap. What's the remedy? All right. Well, I want you to think about this. I mentioned Augusto Zimmerman before. There's a whole raft of us, right? There's myself, there's Augusto, there's Wayne Glue, Dick Yardley, there's Darren Dixon, there's Marcel, there's a whole bunch of us. Are putting together a document. And this document is the document of freedom. To free the Australian people to come out from under the corporation. To stop the theft. Because the corporation, here's the trick we've got. The corporation did not get a signed document from you giving them permission to take your tax or your share in the common wealth of this country. Now, as a corporation, they need that. They've just been taking the money anyway. So we now withdraw that, and then all they've got is this corporate body with no asset behind it, and it is trading insolvent. And that will be served on the International Monetary Fund, it'll be served on the Vatican, it'll be served into Washington DC, it'll be served onto every sitting member in Parliament, state and federal, it'll be served to the governors. Then everybody in the country that wants to will have access to a declaration of their own, a smaller version than ours, but it encompasses and refers ours, and you can take it and put it in their parliament, in their electoral office, in their business office. Put it wherever it is you can find them. And we'll do it all on a day or 2 days. And so here in Adelaide, there'll be hundreds of thousands of people walking into Parliament House in Adelaide, and if they close the doors on us, we'll start nailing the bloody things to the front door. Right? Yeah, right? We will do this, and we're going to form a caretaker government, right? And we will put up as a caretaker government for 24 months. We need 24 months, because here's what we have to do. We've got to get rid of the Australian dollar. because that's not your money. That's not your money. Well, we'll go to the Australian digital or decimal pound. We're not going to the English pound, right? We'll go to the Australian decimal pound. They should have done that. They didn't. But the Australian decimal pound will be different than any other currency on earth. We've had the survey done. We know how much mineral and wealth is still in our ground. And I can tell you this, I'm bound not to tell you how much it is, but I can tell you it's in the tens of trillions of dollars. We will have the most powerful currency on earth.
Gina Reinhardt's got a heap of that. She's
For
making
the moment.
For the moment.
All foreign corporations that have signed an agreement with this unlawful mob, those contracts are void. Like the Chinese. Sorry, got to go now. Bugger off, right? Well, but we paid for it. Well, you paid them for it. They took your money. You go and get it off that corporation, right? So therefore, the electricity and the gas and the oil comes back into the hands of the commonwealth of the people, right? The tax, all tax, every tax you can imagine, your registration, petrol tax, wages tax, company tax, every bit of tax gone out the door. We will put, I went to a conference 20 odd years ago in a faraway place because you weren't allowed to teach this stuff on Australian soil. And they did the numbers for us on a 5% expenditure tax. And when we extrapolate that out to today, that would give Australia $4.6 trillion in tax. And at the moment we get $850 billion because none of the big companies pay it. So imagine the old age pension, $1,500 a week. No, a week. Yeah. Imagine that it'd be $1,500 a week.
I didn't want to get into their system.
No.
I wanted to be self-funded, so I wasn't going to get anything, am I?
Yeah, you will. Imagine this. We have great wealth in this country. Enormous wealth. Gas wealth, oil. Do you know there's more oil between Coober Pedy and Alice Springs than there is in Saudi Arabia? Yeah. Right? Imagine this. That if all this was done lawfully under our Constitution, at the end of the fiscal year, whether it's December or June, who cares? But at the end of the financial year, whatever the revenue has been from our resources, from the oil, from the gas, from the iron ore, from the coal, and we should burn a lot more coal, right? Whatever it is, every Australian will get a dividend at the end of the financial year. Why? Because it's yours. It's yours. Imagine a set of laws, common law. First rule of law, do no harm, right? But imagine a law that was very severe. You touch a child in a sexual manner, here's your penalty. If it is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, because a lot of times there's a lot of false and misleading accusations out there, but if it can be proven without a shadow of a doubt, you will be flogged. With a cat of nine tails, you'll get 3 lashes. You go, Tim, that's barbaric. Tell that to the poor little kid. Tell that to the poor little kid, right? No. It's been proven that 3 lashes with a cat of 9 tails, right? It literally, people never come, they're never the same, they're done, right? Well, they could have a tattoo as well. But the laws would be severe, right? Now, one of the things we have to be aware of is there'll be an education process. Now, I'm a big believer in feed the baby milk, then a little bit of soft mash, and then as they get a little bit bigger, introduce them maybe to a sausage or a little bit of chop or something that they can chew on. People have to be educated in a way that we don't bomb them with shit from every corner of the earth. Right? Like the bloke that got done here.
Sorry to interrupt. Youth, you were saying about youth. Youth crime is crazy.
Oh, we got...
12-year-olds.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we'll fix this. Yeah, we'll fix this. But imagine this. People get educated slowly. Like the guy who asked him, he got bombed with everything. Right? He goes... Right? So... you've got the knowledge. We've all got the knowledge. But it's like they're in the dark and you've got this torch and the torch is full of knowledge and you're shining it in his eyes saying, see what I got? And he's going, no, I can't see. And he'll walk away. But if we go, well, hang on, have a look over here. See, follow this line here, follow this light. Right? And show them the path, don't hit them in the face with it. We're looking to put this together early next year. 10 minutes? Okay. We're looking to put this together early next year. There's a lot in it. There's a lot in it. My brain sort of keeps running. We're going to need, after Christmas, thousands of people to start disseminating information all over the country. And it'll be the gently catchy monkey bit, right? Shine the light, don't blind them. It'll be letterbox drops. It'll be QR codes that you'll stick on a post. Did you know? Have a look at this. And when they hit the QR code, it'll take them to a place where there's a, wow, I didn't know that. Didn't know that. Right? But sorry?
What if we're the 51st state of the USA?
I don't think look, we may be. We may be. But see this? This is still law here. This is still the law. Right? Now, the key to all this is, quite frankly, I am nowhere near smart enough. I am nowhere near strong enough. I am nowhere near quick enough to do all of this at all. Neither are you. But I want to tell you the story of Gideon. You boys would know the story of Gideon, right? Gideon, the Midianites would come through and wipe out the tribes and steal all their stuff and rape the women and take all the food and ride off. A couple of years later, they come back and do it all again.
Sounds like the government.
It sounds like the government, right? Anyway, Gideon, the Midianites were coming and Gideon got his little bit of wheat and he hid down in a wine press with all this bit of wheat that he had. And he waited for the fight and the battle and the yelling and the screaming to finish. And as he came up out of the wine press, are they gone? We're right? Yep. An angel of God appeared to him and said, "Oh, hail, great and mighty warrior." Me? You don't know? No, it's not me. The Lord has said that you are the great and mighty warrior. And Gideon went about telling him who he wasn't. Just like you do. You say, "Oh no, I'm only this. Oh no, you don't understand. I only live in a little house over here. Nobody knows me. No. Gideon said, "You don't understand. Of all the tribes, our tribe is the least of the tribes. Within the tribe, my family is the least within the tribe. And within my family, I'm the least. So I'm the least of the least of the least." God's made a mistake. The angel said to him, God has called you to raise a mighty army. Go and do it. Right, said Gideon. Off he goes. Now I'm going to get these numbers wrong, so don't hold me scripturally to being 100% correct here. But he got about 50,000 men out of the tribes. And the Lord appeared to him and said, that's far too many. And he goes, but we got to fight the Midianites. There's no end to them. And the Lord said, no, it's too many. Tell you what, send all the married men home. So Gideon lined them all up. Okay, anybody who's married, you're free to go home. No battle for you. She's over. Off you go. So all the married men left. And so anyway, they're now down to about 20,000. And God said to Gideon, he says, oh mate, he said, it's too many. It's too many. He said, tell you what, all those who have fear and trembling in the face of the battle, if they're frightened to fight, send them home. Well, off they all went, and Gideon's now left with only, about 5,000, 6,000 people. And God said, no, too many. He said, tell you what, take them down the creek and get them all to have a drink of water. What? Yeah, go. Watch them all down the creek, go over here, get a drink of water. And those who kneel down on the ground and lap the water from the stream as a dog would, send them home. But those who will bow down, pick up the water and keep their wits about them and drink from their hand, keep them. And he did that. And I think he was left with 3,000 men. And God said, yeah, that'll do. Now the Midianites, there's just tens and tens of thousands of them. They're camped over the other side of the mountains. God organised the time to go to battle. And the battle would be done at night. And in that, he placed the men in such a way around whatever's on the barbecue the birds are eating. Anyway, he placed the men on... anyway, they were all placed strategically around the Midianite camp. And then they had all this ability to make noise, and they had all these, each man had 3 or 4 torches. And they made all this noise in the middle of the night and started rushing down the mountainside towards the camp. But they left one area open. And the Midianites bolted. They trampled themselves. Hundreds of thousands of them died by just being squashed on the way out the door. And they won, and they had all the Midianites' food and all the Midianites' bits and pieces. They had all the stuff. And Gideon said, God, why did you do it this way? And God said that if you had have gone and conquered them with the 50,000, you would have thought you had done it without me. This way you knew I done the battle with you and for you. We have a battle. We will need every man and woman in the country, but not to come to the battle, but just to do their part. And there'll be 55, 60 of us in Canberra in the face of the battle. There'll be others around us, but we don't need the millions. But we need you. We need the heart. We need the passion. We've heard it spoken about on days like Anzac Day and days like that. We've heard it spoken about when Alan Bond won the America's Cup. Whoa! Right? We've heard it spoken about on these fierce days. Well, the time's coming when we are literally going to have to reach inside say, I am a living child of God. I belong in this country, and this country belongs to me. And I don't care whether you're black or white. There's no black Australians, white Australians in my Australia. We're Australians, and everybody gets a fair go. Everybody gets a fair go. But we can't if all we do is sit, whinge, bitch, and have misery parties.
Hallelujah.
We have to start building the dream of what tomorrow will look like, and it's people like you, it's people like me, it's others that will come around us as we go along and move into next year. If anybody wants one of these books, they're $180. I bought 2 with me in case anybody wants one. And guys, in Adelaide, just as I finish up, the Magistrates Court told a friend of mine who bought a book off me, and he had it in the court with him, and he was using it in a tax case, and the magistrate said, what's that book you're referring to? He said, it's our Constitution. He said, hand it to me. He said, no. So he instructed the clerk or whoever to go and get the book, handed it to the magistrate. Magistrate had a look at it. He said, I've never seen that. Right? He said, I've never seen that. And he said, well, thank you, I'll have it back. He said, no, you won't have it back. And he said to the magistrate, so you now leave me here defenceless. You have stolen my defence. And the magistrate held the book up, and do you know what he said to him? He said, when the new laws come in, this will be disinformation.
Whoa. Whoa.
Welcome to their Australia.
Yeah.
Not while I draw breath.
Yeah.
Thank you, my time's up.